The sounds of the people around him are muffled, hollow, and full of static. He can't look anyone in the face. He lifts his hands to his ears, blocks out all noise but the ringing in his head, and Shouya Ishida shuts himself off from the world. Koen no Katachi explores how we communicate by crafting a visceral sensory experience built off the many languages of non-verbal expression. It's about a pursuit of empathy, our attempts to understand each other more than our words can say. The film twists the conventional idea of language through its synesthetic use of sound. Be it the vibrations of a beating heart, waves rippling across water, or the burst of fireworks. These visual and tactile representations of sound illustrate how varied this interaction is. The shape of voice is far more complex than our words. Director Naoko Yamada carefully constructs the universality of sound by illustrating the ways we interact with it beyond voice. So much of Koei's nuance lies in the images and sounds connecting meaning together more so than story. As a director, Yamada seems primarily concerned with eliciting the feeling of her work, going so far as to purposefully muddy narrative detail if it better allows the meaning to come across. The information isn't treated as most important, the emotion is. We're not told exactly why Shoko can only have one hearing aid. Instead, this comes through much stronger in her reaction. Similarly, when their grandmother passes away, Yuzuru doesn't tell Shouya, rather tries playing it off before admitting she feels scared. Shoko and Yuzuru share a moment connected through a butterfly after the funeral. Shots isolate Yuzuru first before the butterfly comes over it, consoling her. It then moves to the other side of the reflection pool and comforts Shoko, bringing their gaze to each other where their loneliness of their grief dissipates. It's a testament to how much you can say without saying anything at all. The film plays with sounds to juxtapose information conveyed. For instance, when Shoko reveals she's deaf, we hear the sharp snap of Shouya's pencil breaking and the loud burst of his game. When he first bullies Shoko, the montage is paired with a playful, upbeat track, but when the tables are turned, the images of Shouya getting bullied take on a more somber tone, as we're receiving these scenes from his perspective. Small character moments reveal as much or more about them as people than any exposition would, like Shouya gently lifting his niece down from her chair, or Ueno's quick glance to him at Shoko's introduction. Often we aren't informed of the character's thoughts and feelings through what they say, but in how they carry themselves. Shouya's walk here captures his aimless direction, with slumped shoulders and a hunched back, an immediate contrast to his carefree strut as a child. In between, director Naoko Fujita says the staff fixated on this difference in walks, which makes the divide between Shouya's past and present self strikingly clear. The entire opening montage perfectly establishes Shouya's life as a little hellraiser, made better by Yamada's insistence on The Who's My Generation as the song. Like most kids, he pays little attention to the parts of his world that don't interest him, passing right by what it looks like Shoko, wet and covered in leaves. Much like how Shouya looks after his friends turn on him, the past sequence centers on Shouya's inability to understand and communicate with Shoko. Writing, touch, expression, hand movement, voice. We see her reach out to him through every avenue she can, but he fails to connect to her each time. The teacher taps her shoulder to get her to introduce herself. Careful animation lets you feel his touch as Shoko slightly jolts in response. Kawaii and Ueno later do the same, but Shouya throws pebbles at her to draw her attention. Shoko first communicates to the class through the writing in her notebook. Shouya uses it to abuse her. She asks him to be her friend through sign language. He throws it in her face. She grabs his hand hoping to make amends. He pulls it away. Most of all, Shouya can't read her. Shoko's detailed expressions reveal as much about her as anything. She maintains an honest smile through it all, even as her peers seclude her. Yamada relies on isolation shots to take a snapshot of the character's psyche through how they occupied the space. For instance, this shot boxes Shouya in after Ueno causes him to feel removed from the world again. And later we get a sense of his anxiety by the cut-off way he's framed. Here, isolating shots distance Shoko from her classmates before they eventually leave. Her smile here carries such heartbreaking weight. She's so earnest in her efforts to make friends. Above all, Shoko's determined smile confuses Shouya. No matter how much he threatens her, Shoko smiles back. Finally, his inability to understand her leads to their fight in the classroom and this last moment of distance. While the past painfully illustrates how Shouya's failure to communicate with Shoko caused him to lash out, and in turn loses communication with the world around him, the present is about how he comes to that place of understanding and opens the world back up. He learns to connect to her each way he failed to in the past, starting with sign language. Again, Shoko's expression tells us exactly what's running through her head in the masterful piece of character animation. When he catches up with her, he asks if they could be friends exactly like she did once. Shouya audibly realizes her meaning from back then, and we can see a faint smile from behind her notebook. A pillow shot of more ripples in a pond connected to the next scene. Shouya's dream of the interaction. Here, he can't see her clearly, and their voices sound underwater. Shouya has a long way to go before truly connecting with her. Though this disconnect with people was initially forced upon him, it's not so anymore. He imagines his classmates' conversations about him, and when one tries to get his attention, Shouya ignores him. Nagatsuka is the first person to break through Shouya's wall. He doesn't know how to react to his newfound friendship at first, but quickly grows comfortable and happy with it. Nagatsuka in his goofy antics inadvertently says something really pertinent. Friendship lies somewhere beyond words, what Shouya can't use to connect with Shoko, and logic. How can anyone be friends with the person who bullied them? A major question in all this is why? What's Shouya's motivation for reconnecting with Shoko? Why does he want to see her? First, he thinks he did so as a formality, a tying of loose ends before he killed himself. Ueno later suggests he saw her out of guilt, while Yuzuru questions if he did it for some white knight mentality, that he pities her, and only treats her well to make himself feel like a good person. You can sense that Yuzuru's been through this before. She's seen how some treat the disabled like pets rather than people. Shouya readily admits he wanted to reconnect with Shoko for himself, but also realizes he just doesn't want to make her cry no more. He wants her to like herself. Truthfully, there's no simple answer, but something compels them towards her nonetheless. On the train, the two are framed as if they're facing away on opposite sides, but in actuality, they're facing towards each other. Shouya can't bring himself to look directly at her until Shoko breaks the barrier between them by mailing him. She's established another form of communication they lost, written words. When Shouya reads her message, then he is able to look at her. Yamada manipulates lighting and color to control the temperature of a scene as well as anybody. As Shoko rides the train to meet Shouya later on, the shot is covered in the cool, soft hue of the sunrise. On their way back, with the mood much heavier, the color turns to a harsher, rich cover. Here the scene is bathed in a warm light as Shoko and Shouya face each other, a new door standing between them. Still, Shouya can't reach her. During the confession scene, Shoko wears her hair in a ponytail and brings him a gift, but Shouya doesn't get the meaning of these gestures. She tries her best to communicate her feelings to him with her voice, but he can't understand her. Bit by bit, the world opens back up to him. The people he closed off from his life start to come back, for better or worse. Shouya wonders if he should be allowed to have such happiness. Everything we hear and see is influenced by Shouya's perspective. Much of the shot composition, coloration, sound direction, etc. comes from his point of view. The camera carefully captures the faces of only those in Shouya's inner circle, avoiding Ueno in particular. We also see Ueno's confrontation with Shoko the same way as Shouya, secondhand. Though they came to this place in different ways, Shoko and Shouya both hate themselves. There isn't any one reason or moment why either. Their feelings of self-loathing run deeper than any simple explanation could provide. Yamada treats her character's emotion with the utmost respect. Instead of viewing them as vehicles for the story, she takes great care in treating them as real people. The guilt over the pain he caused Shoko and his mother eats away at Shouya. Unlike Kawaii, whose intense cognitive dissonance prevents her from seeing the pain caused by her own actions, Shouya seems fully aware of the consequences to his. When she announces what happened to the class, his "you did it too" response feels weak and forced. He torments himself inside with regret, so much so the anxiety of facing his classmates makes him sick to his stomach. Shouya believes he's a horrible person, so he'll play the villain, calling everyone out on their self-deceptions and flimsy pretenses of friendship with the tone of almost disheartened apathy. He can't connect with them. Disappointed and nearly brought to tears, Shoko's smile can't draw the pain written across her face. Shouya and Shoko's trip to Yoro Park illustrates how far they've come, as the two seem much more comfortable in the other's presence, but it underscores Shoko's inner torment. She blames herself for all that's happened, believing her presence to be an inconvenience, the source of everyone's unhappiness. Conversely, Shouya looks at Shoko and still sees her from their childhood, with all the pain he caused. He tries to reassure her, but the light blocks out her face where we can't see her expression. More isolation shots show how Shouya feels closed off from everyone again, even the people who care about him. Shoko meanwhile struggles with the weight of her self-loathing. Constant visual cues foreshadow her suicide attempt during the fireworks. Characters are repeatedly seen jumping into rivers, for instance. Shoko is always just out of reach for Shouya. When she leaps from the bridge, he misses her hand. When he slips and falls, she can't grab him. Frames of Shoko from behind, some of the few times we can't see her expression, mirror the image of her on the balcony. We see, and more importantly hear, shots of people happily enjoying the festival. But when the camera cuts to Shoko, looking out on the open sky, the sound cuts off. Here we see just how deep Shoko's wounds run, how closed off and detached she feels. The fireworks give her a moment of normality, where she truly feels a part of the world around her. For once, she can join in the shared experience we take for granted. But the moment, much like the fireworks themselves, is impermanent, fleeting. Shoko repeatedly relies on vibration to communicate with her surroundings, including twice when she realizes Shouya's presence through the vibration of a railing. Shouya now understands how she feels the fireworks through the vibrations by the ripples in her drink. Another barrier between them is broken. Before we have any time to reflect on this, however, Shoko abruptly leaves. Shouya gives the sign for see you later as usual, but Shoko, smiling back, pauses for what seems like forever and returns with thank you. A perfect case in rising tension, Yamada gives Shoko's suicide attempt the respect it deserves. We don't see the action itself. It's a personal moment for Shoko, and perhaps the most visually striking sequence in the film. Koe no Katachi centers around ugly emotions, but depicts these moments and environments beautifully, striking a delicate balance between the heaviness of these issues and the hope for better. For the first time, Shouya manages to grab hold of Shoko before she falls. He laments his failure to communicate clearly with her and pleads that starting now, he'll change. Continuing one of the film's central messages, you can change starting now. In the past, Shouya's mother tells him to be a good person from today on, after learning of his bullying and facing Shoko's mom. On the roller coaster, Sahara recalls how she used to be afraid of rides like this, but doesn't want to let her fears guide her any longer. She's still scared, but plunges ahead anyway, letting go with her hands in the air while Shouya holds on tight. Facing your fears of a roller coaster is a lot simpler than your fears of people, of course, and Sahara still runs away from confrontation. Until Shoko echoes Shouya, telling her she can change, starting now. You can't change the past, but you can change the future. Thus begins the film's lasting resolution. When Yuzuru and her mother apologize at Miyako's feet, she tells them to get up. This isn't theirs to give, it's Shoko's. She spent nearly the whole film apologizing for everything, but finally here, she means it. White daisies accompany the shot, which could signify innocence or new beginnings. A fit given this is the moment Shoko speaks openly, truly apologizes from her heart, and resolves to forge a way forward. Talking to Nagatsuka, who understands that friends are people who accept each other wholeheartedly, she says she wants to fix what Shouya created with a serious look on her face, to restore what she believes she destroyed. Still, Shouya has to open himself up to the others first. Shoko has a dream where she's friends with everyone in the class, but Shouya is not there. We catch a glimpse of his old friend's wet after rescuing him from the water, and see Shoko and Shouya's first conversation when they meet in the present written on screen. It all shows how Shoko realizes she wants and needs Shouya in her life and why. Finally, Shouya understands her feelings and fully communicates with her. Their movements mirror each other as they wipe the tears from their eyes. At last, Shouya makes a formal apology for the events of the past, realizing he only understood her in ways convenient to him. Shoko blames herself because she didn't change. She didn't grow to accept herself, but in reality, they both felt the same. He clasps her hands together in the friend sign and puts his over hers, communicating his feeling through touch. As he bridges this final gap between them, Shouya comes to understand Shoko now in every way he failed to then. Hand movement, writing, expression, vibration, touch. Each time he communicates with her in new ways, the wave motif bookends the scene. With him finally reaching her, now Shouya is ready to reconnect with the world. Still scared to face everyone, Shoko essentially tells him it's okay to look down. I'll look for you. It seems to say you don't have to face your fears alone. You can rely on others to help guide you forward. Shouya is still only able to look Shoko in the face. When he exits the bathroom, he immediately looks at her and glances away when he sees everyone else. Gradually, he looks each in the face one by one, starting with Ueno earlier, then Nagatsuka, Kawaii, and Mashiba. Sahara can't make eye contact with him in the same way. Still scared, but she too finds the courage to bring her gaze back up. Shoko allowed Shouya to look up. She reopened the world to him. As he walks through the festival, all the noise is still muffled, as if underwater. He lifts his hands from his ears, lets the sound back in, and sees everyone clearly again. The world comes back. With Koe no Katachi, Yamada captures the invaluable beauty of sound. It devotes much attention to visual and material representations of sound to highlight how nuanced this interaction is. Even its title, The Shape of Voice, gives a sense of tangibility to an otherwise abstract construct. Communication goes so far beyond what we say with our words. The film doesn't treat any form as inherently more precious, rather all a unique integral part to our understanding of each other. I'll leave you with this quote from Yamada on how she settled on forgiveness as the theme of the work. I thought this film would be a very difficult decision to approach positively. When you're unable to think of yourself positively, that also gets in the way of you understanding what others feel. We all have worries and many things that we feel guilt over, so we might lose the courage to love ourselves. Since I also have that melancholic part of myself, I wanted to make a film that ultimately said, it'll be okay. A beating heart, images of the people we care about, a point of light, opening up, This is the shape of voice.